Hello and welcome wherever you are in Alrewas, Fradley, Witchner, or other places in the globe. We welcome you to the March edition of the Parish magazine for our benefice. And I'd like to also welcome our curate, Chris Precious, who's joining us for his very first videogram. Chris,
thank you, John.
Thank you for joining in today. As we're thick in the season of Lent, which we spoke about last month, Lent is designed to be a journey. Not necessarily a geographical journey of miles, but a spiritual journey as we actually help follow Jesus in his pathway towards the cross. And I believe during this month, even this year, there's a very special direction of travel that we're being asked to follow. Chris, can you tell us more about it?
I certainly can, John. It's the vision of the Bishop of Lichfield, and it's come follow Christ in the footsteps of St. Chad.
Very interesting saying. I don't think any other diocese has that, perhaps because they don't have St. Chad. But it strikes me, Chris, that most people know a little something about the Christ as the one who's the Savior of the world. They may know very little about Chad and who he is. Can you tell us something more?
Certainly. So Chad was the first Bishop of Lichfield, and he was a disciple of St. Aidan in Lindisfarne. And he learnt from Aidan, he learnt humility. And he learned to walk among the people. So he was given a horse, and he actually gave that horse to a poor person, and then walked among the people and shared the love of God with the people.
That's very exciting and impressive. And this year, Bishop Michael wants us to be able to explore more about that strapline using 3 special lenses. And those lenses are about discipleship, vocation, and evangelism.
So John, start us off. What's discipleship all about?
To me, discipleship's all about accepting Jesus' invitation to actually follow him in my daily life, whether that's in the home, the factory, wherever it might happen to be. It's about letting his values, his love and compassion actually come through to other people. One of the sayings we use in our primary school, and the kids find it really helpful, is to ask the question, what would Jesus do? And that is a really good question for disciples to ask themselves. What would Jesus do in a certain context? We may not always know the answer. We may not necessarily be able to do what we feel we'd like to. He does promise he'll be there to help us in the power of his Spirit. So this year, he's hoping we're all going to respond positively to that invitation to follow Jesus in our daily lives. But Chris, can you tell us something more about vocation? Because it seems to me that vocation, people think about the collar, being ordained. But is it for anybody else as well?
So absolutely, we all have a calling. It's not just those of us with a piece of plastic round our necks. And calling is what we're supposed to be doing in our lives, and the calling comes from God. So to share my personal journey, I did biochemistry at university, and then I worked in the food industry for 16 years, doing things like emptying containers, mixing recipes, worked in the lab, ran the factory, technical manager, lots of audits with supermarkets and things like that. And during that time, I met Laura, my wife, and I started to go to church. And that journey involved me doing more and more in church. There's a joke about church that it's like a giant helicopter. People are too afraid to get too close in case they get sucked into the rotors. And I got well and truly sucked into those rotors. And I loved it, and I found something special there. And for me personally, that something special was a calling that's been affirmed as a calling to ordain ministry. But for others, that may not necessarily be the case. And there were certainly people that I met who had a calling to the food industry, or had a calling to teaching, to being a fireman, to being a butcher. We all have a unique calling, and it's about finding that calling and going on that journey with God. What about the final word, John? Evangelism. What's that all about?
Evangelism is that third lens of following Christ in the footsteps of St. Chad. Some people might think, evangelism is something that only ordained people do, talking about God. Sometimes people are actually very worried because they've met maybe street preachers who use phrases like, brother, have you been saved yet? And they're not quite sure how to respond. Or sometimes they might think, oh, well, I've not been to theological college. I don't have really fancy words to use. And so they might feel unable to share the message that they actually are called to share. To me, evangelism is about that enthusiasm of wanting other people to know about something important to me, something I feel passionate about. And if we do feel passionate about Jesus, about God's love revealed to everyone through him, why wouldn't we want our friends and neighbors to know about it from the point of view of our own vocation, whether you are a priest or a butcher or a factory worker? Each one of us have something to share. In fact, I'd like to read for you a little poem. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it says this. There is an old Christian tradition that God sends each person into this world with a special message to deliver, with a special song to sing for others, with a special act of love to bestow. No one else can speak my message or sing my song or offer my act of love. These are entrusted only to me. I believe that those words really capture the heart of evangelism, because each one of us will have something to share with others that only we can. And I think God's counting on us, especially in this new year, to do just that with each other.
So, John, suppose people want to know more about this new direction of travel.
I'm glad you asked that, Chris. There's a wonderful opportunity coming up on the first Saturday in March, the 3rd of March, 11 o'clock, in Lichfield Cathedral, which Chad himself founded. The Bishop of Lichfield is inviting everyone, clergy and everyone else, to come to a special service of celebration and discovery, in which we'll be learning more about those 3 lenses of discipleship, vocation, and evangelism, and how they're playing out across the diocese in special projects and in ordinary people's lives. So I hope you'll come. I'm planning to go. Chris, do you think you might?
Yeah, I'm planning on joining in as well.
So what about you? Come follow Christ in the footsteps of St. Chad. Come on, Chad. Off we go. Thank you very much for watching this.
Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and John and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.